Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I've never been a huge fan of Bubba Ray or Bully Ray, whatever the fuck you want to call him. Um, here's a guy that I thought was a great tag team wrestler, part of one of the more entertaining tag teams that I've seen in my lifetime in the Dudley Boys. Wrestled all over the world, held championships everywhere. Respect to him for all of that. And guys that have put in their years in the business. And, you look at a guy like Bully Ray and you're like, sometimes you look at him and say, maybe he was underutilized as a singles guy by WWE. Maybe he was underappreciated as a singles guy, didn't get a better fair shake in the WWE and all this other crap. But I've always kind of viewed Bully Ray, and this is just the way he kind of comes across to me, not just in terms of a character, but in terms of real life. Always struck me as a bit of a bully, a bit of a wannabe hard ass, and a guy that has a much greater sense of self-worth than the industry and different wrestling companies and fans, frankly, associate him actually being worth. But with that said, I will credit him for being one of those older guys from ECW, from WWE, that went to TNA and actually gave a shit. Like, when you saw certain guys in TNA, you could look at them and you said, like Booker T, you said, God bless him, but you're just picking up a paycheck. You don't give a fuck. Kevin Nash, again, bless him, love him, but he didn't give a fuck. And he knows that. He was there to get himself paid and not have to work much. But you could actually see with Bully Ray that he was somebody that actually did care. He was somebody that did work hard, and he tried to give something to the company. I applaud him for that. I don't begrudge him for that like I would other individuals. I think he deserves a lot of respect for not just totally taking Dixie's money and ripping her off. He actually tried to take that money and prove that that was a worthy investment by giving an effort worthy of that money in return. Now, did the TNA company ever really get the full return on an investment they've put into Bully Ray over the years? I don't really think so. But again, I guess that would be a matter of opinion and perspective. But here's a guy in Bully Ray that they've made multiple time tag team champion, multiple time world champion. They just put into their Hall of Fame. They have bent over backwards to be good to Bully Ray over the years, in my opinion. They have sat there and treated him very well. Not saying he doesn't deserve it, again, because I think he has worked very hard for that company, especially in comparison to a lot of other guys who viewed it as an opportunity to get a smaller paycheck than what they were used to, but still a nice paycheck to work a lot less and not have to work nearly as hard. Kind of like a very poor man's WCW, if you will. But then I hear what happens at Bound for Glory. And you've got Bully Ray, who's getting a featured match on what is supposed to be TNA's biggest show of the year, Bound for Glory. Um, you know, Getting put into this company's Hall of Fame after his team wins the match, sitting there and going into business for himself, talking about the Bullet Club, which is a New Japan Pro Wrestling faction. I understand at the end of the day that nobody can take better care of you than yourself. The day that you think a company cares about you to that degree is the day that you will be disappointed. And newsflash to professional wrestlers, again, because you're so disconnected with the reality of the real world, that is commonplace in pretty much every industry, almost every major company that you could ever possibly imagine to work for. They will say the right things to a certain degree. They will pretend and purport themselves to feel a certain way about their employees. When shit gets to get, they only care about the employees to a certain level. They still care about the company first and foremost. Never get that twisted. They are going to look out for the company's best interest. So that's why it's incumbent upon employees to look out for their own best interest, not the company's. They might have to look out for their own interest by doing what's good for the company, but at the end of the day, you have to take care of yourself first. With that said, though, There's something to be said about being a professional. There is something to be said about respecting your fellow employees and the company that has decided to pay you, and in Bully Ray's case, I'm sure pay you quite well for a number of years, giving you a platform for many years to extend and continue your career, and giving you opportunities that bigger companies like the WWE never bothered to give you. And here he is at TNA's biggest show of the year, just having gone into their freaking lousy Hall of Fame, going into business for himself. What type of bullshit is this? Now, with all the talk from people in the wrestling business over the years about, respect and this and that, how much you want to bet that that shit doesn't matter two beans? That when Bully Ray came to the back, people were sitting there and glad handing him and shaking his hand, telling him how awesome he was, instead of doing what they probably should have done, which was punch his fucking lights out! Of all the gall, the temerity, the hot-spun nuts, Bully Ray sits there and goes on a company's biggest show, a company that desperately needs anything and everything they could get at this time, a company that has incessantly pushed you for years, even when you probably shouldn't have been pushed so much and definitely didn't fucking deserve it, a company that really started to go downhill, frankly, when they made your fat, stuttering ass the goddamn world champion and had you be the leader of one of the worst, if not the worst, wrestling factions of all time in Aces and Eights. A company that continues to show you nothing but love and admiration and respect. A leadership that continues to feature you, continues to give you television time. And you decide, because you don't have a long-term contract, because you might want to go do different things, because TNA doesn't know what the fuck they're going to be doing a couple months from now, let alone a couple of years from now, that you think the best and most professional, appropriate way to conduct yourself is to sit there and have your fat ass take, and I said that right, fat ass, take that Hall of Fame induction, sit there and get a featured spot, and then on a show that is being co-produced and co-promoted by TNA and Wrestle One, you decide to go into business for yourself and fucking promote New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like I said, of all the balls and all the gall, how fucking dare him? Like I said, I don't knock somebody for taking care of themselves. I don't knock somebody for looking out for themselves, but there is also a time and place to do it. And Bully Ray is one of those bullying type of hard asses that'll sit there in those shoot interviews and he'll sit there and tell fans this and in interviews this, talk about the respect of the business and that you do things the right way. Oh, but when it comes to him, fucking hypocrite, fat ass, sits there and it doesn't matter. It doesn't apply to him because nobody's going to have the balls to sit there and call him out on his bullshit and take him to task for his bullshit. But the bottom line is he deserves to be taken to task for this bullshit because what he did is fucking bullshit. You don't sit there when a company is basically extending you an opportunity that they don't have to extend you, when they're basically doing something out of the goodness of their heart in a way, when they're basically doing something and sitting there and saying, hey, you know what? Even though you're not under contract, even though we're taking a risk here, we've believed in you enough over the years. We respect you enough. How about we give you this opportunity? Just make sure you respect us. And then you go into fucking business for yourself? Fuck Bully Ray. And you know what? To somebody like Dixie Carter, this just shows how stupid you truly are. You apparently have to be the biggest mark in the history of the professional wrestling business. Get this through your thick skull, sweetheart. Most of these wrestlers don't care about you or your precious little TNA Impact Wrestling. They do not. They care about getting themselves paid and not having to work that hard and not having to work that much. This is what happens when you treat these guys like gold. This is what happens when you naively believe that these guys really care about TNA and its future. They couldn't give two fucking hella beans. I know it's got to be really disappointing to see somebody like Bully Ray do something like this because he was one that you actually thought did care about the company and did care about its future and did care about its direction going forward. But the fact of the matter is he fucking doesn't. And you get exactly what you deserve. Dixie Carter, you made your fucking bed and now you have to lie in it. All of these years of counting on all these old ECW and WCW and WWE guys and expecting them to be the saviors to get that cheap ratings pop and that sorry-ass pay-per-view buy. Well, when you really need them, When you really need that help, where the fuck are they? Oh, I'll tell you, they're at your so-called biggest show of the year that you didn't even give much of a fuck about, doing whatever the fuck they want to do, going into business for themselves on a TNA Wrestle 1 promoted show, promoting another Japanese promotion. Fuck Bully Ray and Dixie Carter. You get exactly what you deserve. I feel no sympathy for you whatsoever.